to Reverend John L. Gant, First Lady LaShonda Gant, deacons, trustees, ministry leaders, members and friends, and all those who have contributed to making this first century celebration a reality, I bring you fond greetings. I am Robert Gore Jr., the grandson of Reverend Lucius Henry Gore, and I was a proud member under his pastorate of Mount Hermon Missionary Baptist Church, then located at 5301 South Dearborn. Today, I'm filled with joy as we celebrate your 100th anniversary. God has built this church to magnify his glory. We are the fruit of his labor. May God continue to use you to build the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Happy 100th anniversary. What a blessing it is to return digitally to my first church home. I want to thank especially Sister Lakita Hall, who found me online and allowed me to share this brief message with you. Achieving this milestone is no small accomplishment. As a former trustee board chair of the Abyssinian Baptist Church in New York City, I can only imagine the challenges that Mount Hermon has faced over the past century. As you know, your fellowship was born during the Roaring '20s, a boom time for America, and a time of hope for those who joined the Great Migration to Chicago's South Side. Over the century, Mount Hermon has survived depressions, recessions, wars, pandemics, and all manner of upheavals in the world and your own difficulties. And yet, today, you are a testimony to God's grace and your commitment to overcome adversity. Being able to say a few words about my grandfather, or as I called him, Dada, is a great privilege for me. He preached to all of those who would listen, whether at home, in the community, and from the pulpit. At 6 foot tall and 200 pounds, my grandfather loomed large physically and possessed a powerful baritone voice. In the early years, we lived in the same home on South Prairie. I would sit on his lap and he would feed me and he would sing to me. From the beginning, he and I were joined in a relationship of mutual admiration. He was a generous peacemaker at home, diffusing emotions with firm compassion. As his only grandson, he often sacrificed his needs to support my dreams. Later in life, he even borrowed against his life insurance policy to pay my tuition. He had a minister's heart. His presence in the community, at home, and in the pulpit reflected compassion, humility, leadership, integrity, generosity, and above all, love of the scriptures. He was a lifelong learner who was deeply committed to learning and perfecting his craft. He never stopped learning. I cherish his handwritten notebooks from the 1950s and the 1960s, filled with sermon themes, biblical references, and notes for future presentations. I have fond recollections of being with him at Mount Hermon in the 50s. It was the place where I first met the Lord, was baptized, and attended service every Sunday. Then the congregation was a small, close-knit church comprised of Gores, Crawfords, Jordans, and other first-generation Northerners. Worship was spirited and sometimes long. The members were exceptionally loving and kind to me. Being a pastor's grandson offered me many benefits. The saints would smother me with kisses, provide me with endless encouragement, and often slide peppermints and coins in my pocket. They would always leave me with the same hope and prayer. Boy, someday you're going to be a preacher. In those days, worship at the church was often spontaneous, sometimes starting with a prayer by a deacon or a parishioner would offer a hymn. But of course, there was no need for hymnals because in those days, everyone knew the songs of Zion. Amid foot patting, humming, and often weeping, a voice would rise above, lining a hymn, often the first line being, "I love the Lord, he heard my cry." In the winter, Dad would arrive early, fire the coal stove to heat the storefront sanctuary, and stay late to sweep up behind. His ministry paved the way for you and for future generations. I would like to close my remarks with a passage that some of you may be familiar with from 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness and into the wonderful light. God bless you, Mount Hermon Missionary Baptist Church. On your 100th anniversary, we pray you will have 100 more.